Most people think time is like a river that flows swift and sure in one direction. But I have seen the face of time, and I can tell you, they are wrong. Time is an ocean in a storm. You may wonder who I really am, and why I say this. Come, and I will tell you a tale like none you have ever heard.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. To easily make yourself this diorama, you will only need some piece of XPS foam, as well as some toothpicks for the door and some wooden dowels for the torches. Other than that, you will also need some white glue, a hobby knife and some paints. We will try to do this diorama in one big chunk of XPS foam. You will first draw a rectangle with a length of 20 cm with a height of 17 cm. Then you will do a first mark at 10 cm high. You will do a first horizontal line of 8 cm starting from the left. You will leave it blank in the middle. And you will do a second line from 12 to 20 cm on the right. On the left side, you can do a full vertical line until the bottom, just make sure to leave a few millimeters for the ground. On the right side, you will do a vertical line of only 4 cm. Then you will go 2 cm on the right and do another vertical line up to the bottom. As before, leave a gap of a few millimeters for the floor. And finally, for the roof, you can do an additional line 1 cm below the top line. Next, on the bottom part, you can add a mark every 2 cm. And you can do the same thing on the roof, but this time horizontally. And for the next step, with a hobby knife, we will draw the masonry lines. For this, you will simply follow horizontally the 2 cm marks. And when you are done, you will take a ball pen or a pencil and you will deepen the lines. And now you will do the same thing vertically, but only for the roof. At this step, you can take a rock from your garden in order to add some texture to the masonry. Don't hesitate to hit hard in order to make it look like old and damaged. And on the side of your chunk of XPS foam, you can also do 2 marks of 2 cm and one final one at 1 cm. And then you can replicate the same process with a knife and the pencil. But don't do it like me in a square shape, I will show you why a bit later. For your ease, you can redo 2 cm marks horizontally on the bottom part, but you can also use the one on the roof as a reference. Just make sure to do it only on the first row of masonry. And now we'll redo the same technique with a cutter and a pencil, but be extra careful to only do the first line of masonry, the third and the fifth. And don't forget to do the bottom part in the middle. And now we'll redo exactly the same thing for the second and the first line, but this time on each side we'll start at 1 cm from the edge. Take your time in order to make sure to not do any mistake and also to not hurt yourself. And when you are done with one side, you can replicate on the other one. And when you are done, don't hesitate to take back your rock and to do further damage and to push in some stones. And the next step will be to cut everything. On my side, I use my hot wire cutter, but I had to cut the diorama in two in order to be able to use it. The easiest way is to start from the bottom and from the back to leave 1 cm for the wall, and then you will go up to the roof, but make sure to not cut it in order to leave it attached to the wall. And once this is done, with the remaining parts it's super easy, you simply have to cut the excess, meaning the part that we did not texture. And do not throw away the excess block, because they will be the exact same size that you will use to do additional parts. For example, the floor tiles. And for the next step, we'll texturize the walls. Here, I'm using a roller, but you can also do it manually with a pen or a pencil, but it takes a lot of time. Alternatively, if you really want to replicate the DOS game looks, you can only do a few bricks on the wall. And also, if you do it manually, you don't have to complete the full wall, because most of the part will be hidden. At this point, if you follow all the steps correctly, it should look like something like that. And notice the pattern that I used on the masonry on the side. I do one block of 3 cm and one block of 1 cm, and I alternate every line. For the floor tiles, I will do some rectangles of 4 cm by 2. Remember to use the leftover block from the previous step. Here, the one above are a bit thicker than the one below, but it's not mandatory. And do remember that the first floor tile after the gap is a pressure plate. To make this elevation effect, you can simply use a bit of cardboard or another piece of foam. The important part is that this piece needs to be a bit smaller than the floor tile. For the next step, we'll make some square pillars. For these lines, you can simply use the same technique with a cutter and a pencil, or you can also use your hot wire cutter. Don't forget to texture it and to make sure they are at the correct height. Here, for example, I forgot to account for the floor tiles, and I will not see it before everything is painted. And now it's time to prime everything. You can either use some brush and some paint, or you can use those dedicated foam primers from army painters. If you are new to the channel, first, welcome, don't hesitate to subscribe, and second, please be aware that any other spray can will melt the foam. And once again, I'm not sponsored by army painters, but I found that those primers are really good and save a lot of time. I would say a tons of times. If you want to spray the floor tiles, here is a little trick you can do using some masking tapes. You will simply do a full loop with the masking tape and stick it to a plank. Here, my plank is really long, so you will see that it's a bit loose, so I will attach some reinforcement. And once everything is dry, here is the result using the runes and cliff from the Game Master Terran Prime. For the paint process, we simply use the dry brushing technique that you already saw in all my previous videos. For new joiner, the technique consists of removing the excess paint from your brush on a paper towel and only hitting the highlight of your bit. For the first step, I will only use some dark grey on some specific stone from the masonry, in order to replicate the looks from the DOS game. and I will also use it on the walls. For all the remaining stone parts, I will use some natural glue. And here is the result after the first layer. For each additional layers, we'll use the same technique. However, we'll add a bit of white with the base grey. So remember to mix it with the dark grey for some specific stones and for the wall, and for all the remaining masonry, we will mix it with a neutral grey. And here you have the result after the second layer. And for the next step, we'll rinse and repeat, but for each additional layer, you will add more white in the mix. And also, for each additional layer, you will apply less pressure on your brush. The result after the third layer. And here after the fourth layer. You can do as many layers as you want, but I found out that the best quality to time ratio is to do one layer with the base color and then 3 additional layers, adding more and more white in the mix. The next step is not mandatory, but I will apply a homemade wash in order to blend all the color a bit more together. To make yourself this wash, you will simply use some water, a bit of black paint and 1 drop of dish soap. All the masonry is now done, and the next step will be to make the prints. For this, I directly extracted the pixel art from the game, but for your ease, I put everything in a Word that you will find in the Google Drive in the comments. Everything is free for you to use. The middle floor part was not super solid, so I decided to do an additional basis. I simply use on it the Ruins and Cliff primer from Army Painter. And now it's time to finally glue everything together thanks to white glue. As you can see, I started with the big blocks and I will do the floor tiles on a later stage, when everything is dry. And before gluing the floor tiles from the bottom part, I will draw on it some traps. The idea here is to make some holes for the spikes. For the spikes, I will cut some toothpicks, I will paint them beige and I will glue them to the floor tiles. Take your time to make them glue correctly to the floor tiles. For the door, I will do the same, but with some longer toothpicks. I will stick them in a piece of foam in order to glue them properly together. And then I will stick them in the floor tiles. As I told you, I forgot to account for the height of the floor tiles. And by the way, if you are wondering how the prince is standing, I just stuck a piece of toothpick behind. If you are still there and enjoying this video, please don't hesitate to subscribe, like and to leave a comment. But if you want to support the channel, the best thing you can do is to share this video with a friend of you that might be interested in it. And the final step will be to do torches. If you are interested, I did a dedicated video on Adventurers Camp on how to do torches, fire pits and some tents. Thank you very much for watching this video. I will leave you with some glamour shots of the diorama.